Right on, man. Well, thank you for taking some time. We have Chips
Uh,
Enough on the
Appreciate it, Todd.
podcast now.
Thank you.
Right on, dude. Yeah, we've been talking about doing this for a while now. I think
I
that
see you've been very busy, so it's great that you took time out of your busy schedule to talk to me.
yeah, and I know that that you and I have some mutual friends in the rock world, so I'm looking forward to kind of getting caught up in your world, man.
Cool. I love it, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Happy
How
Halloween.
happy Halloween. Yeah, like you noticed the what were you
Yep, I
dressed
got
as?
my look on too. This is me every day.
Right, exactly, right? How was COVID? Let's get to it. How was COVID in your world? And like you're like everybody, I guess, kind of just getting ready for shit to get back to normal, right?
Same as everybody else. Basically, 2019, late 2019, early 2020, I was kind of sick. I didn't know what I had. Went to the doctors. They said I had some kind of bug. No one knew what it was then. And I took the proper medications and I got rest. And like within a week, I was good, in pretty good shape.
Really?
And then we went out, we toured, we went over to, we did the rock cruise. They have every single year, the Monsters of Rock cruise. That was real successful. Hung out with all my buddies. Everybody was having a great time. No one heard anything about any kind of virus that was going around.
Yeah.
And then basically after that, we did a bunch of shows in January. As a matter of fact, we did a small tour. And then we went over to Monster Rock Cruise. And right after that, we embarked on our Australian tour, our first one ever. With
Oh,
Kip,
really?
with
Wow,
Kip
really? Your
Winger. That was
first
great.
Australia? You've never done Australia? Really?
No,
That's a,
unfortunately, just never, it would never popped in. And we had opportunities. It was a tough flight, 20 hours
yeah,
to get there. And we just found ourselves in a position where just economically, it wasn't good for us. But we finally found an open window. And we had more than 4 shows. I think it was 7 shows there. Because when you go to Australia, you want to do a bunch of gigs. You don't want to just play 1 or 2 shows.
right.
So we had a 7 gigs, which is great. The fans out there are wonderful. They really are starving for hard rock and heavy metal. They just love music out there, and beautiful places to go to. It's a lovely countryside, really fabulous people out there. I'm a big fan of Australia now. And then, of course, their food, their wine, their women, everything was just, off the charts. All the
And
shows were really well attended.
yeah, I would
And
imagine so, especially since you've never been there. Isn't that incredible, Chip, to think like your band? Like, dude, I used to listen to your band in like the fucking late 80s, early 90s. Isn't that incredible that like we're now 2021, we're coming up on 2022. You guys are still around. You guys are still doing what you do. Isn't that like, did you ever think that you would be around today?
Sure, I did. Who gears up a band for failure? When you put the band together back in the early '80s, I think it was late '83, early '84.
Yeah.
Common denominator was let's make great records and make this last for a long time. We look to all our heroes that were out there. There's so many great bands to pick from that we love. And so we went out. We started making records, started recording in our little apartment, making small little cassette tapes and CDs, just for ourselves mostly, see what tripped our trigger. And then, of course, when we got enough material together and we had some confidence, we found some people out there that were interested in what we were doing. Most notably, Doc McGee, our manager at the time, was Bob Brigham, and
Right.
he was working over at a studio called Royal Recorders in Lake Geneva. It was a great little place to go to. It's where all the Monsters of Rock happened back then in the late '80s. And Doc came in and heard our stuff and told me, he says, Chip, after 3 days there, he goes, I got 3 cassette tapes in my car. 2 of them are Enuff Z'nuff. I was pleasantly surprised and flattered because I knew Doc was
Well, at the time, wasn't he doing like he was doing like Motley Crue and he was doing Bon Jovi and Skid Row and like he was doing a lot of
Scorpions.
shit, right?
And he was out in Lake Geneva to check on the Skid Row guys that were recording their first album. And so he said he had a friend of his that was interested in signing bands. He signed 2 bands that he'd mentioned were Bon Jovi and Cinderella. And we said, oh, it's great. We didn't think anything of it except that, well, it's another opportunity. We know we're going to reach somebody sooner or later. And lo and behold, a couple weeks later, Derek Shulman came out to see us, who was the president of Polygram, or Atco Records, I should say. He used to be a Polygram.
Yeah.
And Atco Atlanta gave him his own imprint, came out and seen us. He just got done signing Pantera and AC/DC and Bad Company, and he loved the band and gave us a deal. And here I am chasing the carrot 35 years later.
Exactly, right. And so was this something that you like, was it growing up, is this what you wanted to do? Was it always a focus of I'm going to be in a band? And if so, which band was that to really kind of put you onto that path?
Well, there was too many bands out there to mention that I loved beyond belief. If you're talking here in North America, well, obviously we love bands like Cheap Trick and Aerosmith. Those were two bands to go to. But most of our influences were across the pond.
Right. Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin and Queen and the Beatles and Mount the Hoople and Sweet. There's just so many bands to look at for inspiration. But we didn't really pick out one band like some bands. They go, I listened to Kiss, or I seen Kiss in concert, and I wanted to grab onto that. Nothing wrong with Kiss. I always admired their strut too, but we just wanted our own sound. Maybe perhaps that was a problem in the beginning. We had no idea because it was hard to categorize Enuff Z'nuff because we were alternative before alternative. We had rock, prog, alternative,
totally,
metal. There's a lot of different influences that came with Enuff Z'nuff's music. So it was really hard for journalists and the fans themselves to categorize the band. At the end of the day, we just wanted to make great records and write songs about our everyday experiences that we went through. And I think we captured that in the bottle.
Oh, for sure you did. Absolutely. You were definitely unique in it in the time. So I'm curious then. So what's the music then in your house as a kid growing up? Like, what are you being influenced by?
Well, it's pretty easy. You are what you eat. My mom and dad had Beatle records, but they also had bands like Canned Heat and Rare Earth, and listen to Woodstock stuff and the old Black Sabbath records. My dad had all that stuff. He was good. And he was really good with the blues stuff too, where, he had Muddy Waters and Buddy Guy records and Rolling Stones. And he grabbed onto blues stuff a lot. Yeah. And I think that seeped into our veins as well. But there was just hundreds and hundreds of bands. My father just gave away his record collection just recently. I wish he would have called me and told me about it.
Really? Wow.
Like 600 old records that he had from in the early days, because he doesn't play vinyl anymore. He listens to CDs still, believe it or not. It's easier to navigate, he says.
Sure.
But I have a ton of records here, and it's everything from the 40s all the way through to today. So I'm a vinyl fan. I don't listen to vinyl a lot. I have a great record player.
Yeah, same.
But a lot of stuff that we listen to, you're on your phones, and that's the day and age that we're into. If someone asks me, what do you want to listen to? I like CDs. That's my go-to. It's real simple to navigate and get to those records and put them in there. And you want to fast forward, you can do that as well. In the old days, I was listening to vinyl along with 8-tracks, believe it or not. No one even knows what those are anymore.
8-tracks. I remember that from my mom's 67 Mustang.
Yeah, it was a big thing. I love that kind of stuff. Nowadays, you get tracks, and people ask me to produce their records, and they go, yeah, some of your stuff, and they give it to me on Dropbox. You pull it up and listen to it, and there's your call right there. That's where you move from, and that's that's the place we're at. When bands put records out now, there's a landing page, and it's iTunes and Spotify and all the other places that hold your records, and that's how we listen to music right now. That's how we share it. That's how people indulge and enjoy. So listen, as long as the music can get out there, it's great. It's funny because you turn the TV on or you watch a movie or whatever, and it's music on every commercials. It's music. Music is the common denominator. Without it, we're doomed.
Totally.
So but still in the music industry, it's still looked at almost as something that's not as important as the actual product. And the sum is bigger than the parts. But I believe that music is really a big part of our fabric.
Yeah, totally agree. And it sounds like it's always been a kind of a stronghold in your family. So what's the first concert that you went to as a little kid then?
I would say probably Queen at the Aragon Ballroom.
Wow.
That's the first thing that comes up to me. It was Queen playing, I think it was 74 and 1974 it is, folks. and it was Queen. The opening act was Kansas.
Nice.
Steve
Carry
Walsh.
on my wayward
Yeah, well, that
son.
song wasn't out then, but they
Oh,
were
even
absolutely
pre that. Okay,
yeah, they
wow.
were a totally prog band back then, and real heavy. And then the second band on that bill was Frank Marino's Mahogany Rush, and I remember vividly
Wow.
because for the encore, Frank Marino came out and played the Star Spangled Banner on guitar, almost a la Jimi Hendrix. He was a big Hendrix fan. He listened to his guitar playing. He's got a great sense of balance. And that was probably the first show I went to. And I obviously have seen tons of concerts since then, but that was the first one that comes to my mind. And I love the Aragon Ballroom because every single band's played. I've seen AC/DC play there. I've seen the Runaways opening for Stars and Angel there as well. And of course, through the years moving on, I've seen the Pumpkins play there and Cheap Trick. And I've seen the last Nirvana show that was there.
Wow.
So a great venue, built in 1926. My grandfather was one of the guys that painted the place inside there. And it was basically a room that was, if I'm not mistaken, somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was a room they used to have like a ballroom where they had dances and 40 music in there and stuff. And then it turned into an ice rink. And then from there, from the ice rink, they started having concerts there, and they realized that it was a very lucrative having shows in there. And they started booking a lot of bands, and everybody played there. It's really a historical venue.
Yeah, totally. And so let me ask you something that, of course, it would always probably change, Chip, right? Like here's a question. You're like me, like, fuck, dude, really? There's no way I'm gonna be able to answer this. But tonight, if you're stuck on a deserted island, this is one of those questions that's like really going to define you as a musician, as a person that loves music. Which 3 albums do you need on that deserted island?
Beatles' White Album, Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here, and the last one is a toughie, but maybe Standing on the Edge by Cheap Trick. Great record that not a lot of people know about. They recorded that Royal Records where we recorded our first record as well. Yeah. And they weren't really writing songs for radio, just writing songs as a real rock band, plug in and play, no tapes, nobody backstage, and no synthesizers. That was just a fabulous band back then. I think Todd Rundgren produced that record as well.
I think you did.
There's other records too. You would think I want to put one of mine. I'm not that self-indulgent. I love Enuff Z'nuff.
Can't bring on Enuff Z'nuff's record.
No, you are what you eat. And I listen. Those are records I go to all the time, for inspiration.
Yeah, nice.
And can I add one more record? I like that Radiohead, OK Computer. That's a great record too, as well.
You know what? Now there's Radiohead for me is one of those bands that's and I put those guys almost in like a Coldplay sort of thing where you're like, man, if they're playing a show in Vancouver, I need to see Radiohead, I need to see Coldplay, but I don't know that they're one of those bands where I'm like, man, I need to hear that Kid A album. I need to go home and put that on. But if they're coming through, man, those guys, there's something about their live performance that they're almost untouchable. Both of those.
It's great musicians, and they work together as a team, and it's the same band, same guys basically. They grow up together, and they just really have a wonderful sound, and they take chances. And I think they borrow from everything. It's a perfect band to look at. Yeah. Hard to categorize because in pop, rock, metal, it's all mixed in their stuff. They have a little bit of elements on everything in there, and a lot of prog rock in that stuff too. I think they're a fabulous band, and obviously they sold a lot of records, but every album is different. They really changed from Kid A to OK Computer. That's a band that you look, there's not a lot of bands that come out like that. Every 20 years you get a band that great.
Totally. 100%. I saw them at T-Bird Stadium probably decade, 12, 15 years back. And it was like, I was fucking blown away at how good they were live.
Yeah, fabulous.
Yeah. I wonder, like, has the pandemic, we're all kind of just struggling to make it through and we're almost out of it. It feels like we're almost out of it, but like, has the pandemic made Enuff Z'nuff kind of change or rethink the game at all?
I don't think musically it has. I believe that we've struggled, all of us together, and shout out to our nurses and our doctors and our surgeons and the
Yeah.
people on the front lines that have been taking care of our country and looking out for us. I mean, God bless those people. Wonderful. For us, we've hunkered down and we made records while we had time off. We toured, we played, we did the Monsters of Rock cruise, that live streaming show stuff.
Right.
Give free concerts out to people, 20, 30,000 people get on there and watch this show for free.
Yeah. And how cool is that, right? To know that like when you do those shows that people are actually watching you do it, man.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's good for your ego.
Yeah.
But it's not good for the pocketbook, obviously, because
No.
we were doing it because we want to let everybody know that we're devoting our time, and we're grateful that people wanted to see the band play, see a concert live, and know the band was still alive.
Yeah.
But when everything started clearing up, well, we ended up booking a tour. We went on straight out of quarantine tour with Faster Pussycat and Enuff Z'nuff, and we toured for about 2 months around the country. And let me tell you, every single show, the fans are fantastic around the world. They just love hard rock and heavy metal. Those shows, we weren't playing stadiums and sheds. I'm not fooling myself. I'm not confusing emotion with progress. We were out there playing, 500s, maybe 1,000-seat venues on the weekends, but they were all sold out, jam packed. The fans really spoken. They loved the groups. And I thought that was a really good tour. And we were almost like the human guinea pig, put us out there and see if that one works. There was no other tours really happening then. And if that worked and everybody stayed healthy, perhaps other tours would follow and suit. And they did. And you start seeing all the bands going out right after that and playing the same rooms we were playing to as well. John Five was out there. He was touring around the country. I seen we did a couple of shows at Yngwie Malmsteen. We did Houston with him. People were coming out to the shows. They want to see concerts and they want to see it live. And they don't want to go out and see the live streaming shows. They want to see the bands right in front of them playing the shows. They want to celebrate life all together in one room. So in that way, it was good. After the tour ended, then I started seeing things getting shut down again. They had a new variant that was out there. And I hate talking politics. I really don't, but I love the fans. And no one's really asking me, Chip, how do you feel about what's going on here? My personal thoughts are it's time to go out and play. We got it. We know there's a virus out there. We'll never be able to eradicate the virus because once they're here forever. We have to learn to live around them. And the best thing to do is try to be as safe as possible. And for, the unvaccinated and the vaccinated shouldn't be fighting it out. We should all still be getting along because even if you're vaccinated, you can still contact this.
Still pass it along.
Yeah. So I think, it's everybody to each his own. And for the ones that are not real healthy right now or have a compromised immune system, or perhaps they have religious beliefs, that's okay. Let's not divide the country over a virus that we had nothing to do with. Let's look out for each other like brothers and sisters, like they did in their moms and dads' days. That's what I say.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. All right, Chip, let's get outside of music for a sec here and get to know you a little bit. I'm curious, what are the shows right now that you're binging? What are the shows you can't get enough of?
Well, listen, I live the tour. That's what I'm built to do. Rick Nielsen said it best. He goes, we're not all built to do this, but the ones that are go out and play shows. That's what I love doing. But man, while we're off right now, I've made 3 albums. We have a brand new record coming out next week. It's called Hard Rock Night, and it's all Beatles songs because that's one of our biggest influences. And it's not a tribute record or anything. We're just paying respect to our forebears. It's a big band that, wasn't for them, there would be thousands of bands that we never even know about right now. Paul McCartney invented my job as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. I think this record's a great hard rock record, shows a different side of the band. It's a reinterpretation in our eyes, through our eyes, of the Beatles. And it's a solid rock record with big guitars, and it's right on the borderline of hard rock, but it's all songs that Lennon and McCartney wrote, and they're fantastic.
Yeah. Still to this day, like some of the best writing ever.
We have to write the songs, and we should have done this a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that we're the first band ever in the history of music to do a whole Beatle record, at least that I know of all Beatles songs that's done in a hard rock version, like picture Stone Temple Pilots and Cheap Trick. That's the kind of record it is. It's a powerful hard rock record with smash hit songs written by McCartney and Lennon. Some of them are during Paul during his Wings days, and some of them are John on his solo career. But most of it's all Beatles songs, and I think it's a great interpretation of what the Beatles were, what they'd be about. They were playing in this day and age right now. We're certainly not competing with them. If anything, it's paying respect to those cats.
Right.
And I'm glad we took a chance and did a record like this. I was surprised that Frontiers Records wanted a cover record because they want all originals, and we have a long record and a relationship with them. They want a bunch of records from us, and that was the first one that we're going to put out this year. And then we're going to follow it up with my solo record, which is called Perfectly Imperfect. And that's got some good guys on there. Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake's playing the record, along with Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick. Daniel Benjamin Hill's on the record as well. Marquishi's playing guitar on a track, which is a new up-and-coming artist. He's fantastic. It's just a nice record. It's my heroin love letter to the new generation, that record. 10 songs, and that comes out, I think, in January. And then we're looking at an April or May release of 2022 of the brand new Enuff Z'nuff album.
Wow, this can be that fast. So we'll hear pretty quick.
Listen, while I've been Todd, while I've been off too, I've been producing records. I produced that Marquishi record. Then I just finished up a record for a band called Midnight Devils. They're from Nebraska, a punk rock band. And Chris Steinmans, who does all the stuff over at Stonecutter Studio here in Chicago, he works with Ozzy and Alice Cooper, and he did the Kiss Revenge record. He's mixing the record for me right now. So, and then I've played on numerous records too during this time off. So I'm certainly not lazy. I'm not being complacent.
Yes.
And I want to get the music out there. That's the most important thing, because I see a big tour happening next year, and I want to have all the stuff, everything in place for the next thing I'm going to be doing, which I think starts at the end of March. It's a big major tour, and it's not out with LA Guns or Faster Pussycat or a Cinderella or a Poison or a Motley Crue, and those are great bands. But it'll be a tour playing 1,000-seat venues, and it'll be like a back to the 80s type thing, and tons of bands of Bow Wow Wow, When in Rome, Missing Persons, Enuff Z'nuff. That's going to be a lot of fun. A new audience, new fans out there, a real celebration.
That's pretty cool, man. And that'll all get announced pretty quick.
Yeah, I think they'll probably announce something in the next couple of weeks, which I'm pretty excited about that, because can't wait to get back on the bus again. The last bus broke down. We had the Journey bus on the last tour.
No, did you really?
In the middle of the Faster Pussycat tour, the thing broke down. Listen, I was finding everything in there. We found all these guitar picks from Steve Vai and Journey and all these bands from the 70s, and the 80s that were using that bus for years, or I should say the 80s and 90s that were using that bus for years.
Yeah.
And finding old bindles in the back, and bottles of booze in the refrigerator that were from 1989. It was ridiculous how much great storytelling on that bus too. And it broke down in Denver, Colorado, and we found ourselves having trouble finding to get around the tour. And a friend of mine over in Houston, his name is Justin. He runs a place called Warehouse Live. Him and his friend put their credit card up and got us a 15-seat passenger van, and we were able to maneuver around the country and play the last 19 shows. How cool is that? He said he wasn't going to let the tour cancel. He said there was no way he was going to let something fall apart and fall to the wayside. He wanted to help out Enuff Z'nuff. And boy, there's a brother. I owe him. I'm indebted to him for the rest of my life.
That's huge. That's huge, man. I'm wondering, what are you watching for shows lately? Disney, Netflix, just TV? What are you watching lately?
Don't get a chance to do that a lot. My wife watches all that stuff. That's for sure. She's really good. Downton Abbey. She hails those kind of shows. Myself, don't see a lot of TV. When I do, it's all kinds of stuff I'd rather not say. It's not what I'm not following. In the old days, when I used to live with Steven Adler from Guns N' Roses, it was American Dad and Family Guy and South Park. That's all he'd have on TV every day is cartoons. It drove me crazy. So now I just try to focus my attention on just staying busy working. If I do watch TV and watch movies, I maybe go to Netflix. That's a go-to for sure. Yeah. And I used to love that Shameless show. That was something that really tripped my trigger a lot.
Yeah.
But now I couldn't pinpoint one show that I could say, oh, check this one out, because it's brilliant. Although there's a lot of documentaries that are coming out right now that I think are interesting.
Documentaries are the way to go. Back to Steven Adler. Where did you live with that guy, man? That's Steven Adler. My God, we're talking rock royalty at this point now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm here in Blue Island right now. He lived here for about a month with me when he had to get out, when he was getting clean, getting sober, and he came out here because he knew he'd be safe at my house. Yeah. Which that experiment didn't work as well as we thought it would. But I worked with him. Studio City, we lived together. I played with Adler's Appetite for about 8 years. He's still a brother of mine beyond belief. And he only goes out for the weekends right now. He's not interested in going out and doing long tours or anything because he loves his doggies and he likes to be home.
Yeah.
And watches cartoons. He's happy with that. He goes out for the weekends, does the weekend warrior thing with his great band, and he comes back home. But he's on one of the tracks on my solo record. As a matter of fact, he played drums on a nice song called Honolulu Boogie, which is fantastic. I probably have about 2 albums of the material with Adler playing drums on it, because when he was living over here, he would just come in the room and just play beats. I go, hey, bro, check the drums for me, would you please? And my engineer would just record all this stuff. And I got just thousands of beats of him kicking ass. Here's a guy that grew up listening to Queen and Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. He's got a great swing and a wonderful timbre. So the rest of my career, I have enough material. I can keep putting out records with Adler and me, and it'll be fantastic, because nobody swings like he does. He's still a great drummer to this day.
Yeah, dude, not at all. Like, I mean, I'm a drummer, and I'm a hack in comparison to you guys, but yeah, man, Steven Adler's like one of the fucking best, man, hands down. Like, Appetite is like one of the best albums drum wise, ever, man, ever.
Yeah, when they did that record, there was no click track or anything. Just went in there, the band, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and laid down those songs. That's what he told me. He said they never used a click on any of that stuff. There was no metronome. It's just he was the metronome.
He was it.
And when they finished doing the tracks, then at the last one that played on the record was actually came at the last minute and sang all the songs. So I thought that was interesting the way they did that record. And Mike Klink was the producer of that record. Mike was responsible for Eye of the Tiger, all that stuff for Survivor. So he was smart enough. Mike had a great sense of balance. He knew, listen, a producer's job is to bring out the best performance in the individual, make him feel comfortable. And that's what he did with Guns N' Roses. And when they were I talked to Mike, I hung out with him at A&M Studios when we were doing our Animals of Human Intelligence record. And he says, Chip, those guys weren't doing anything, no smoking pot, no drinking, no nothing. Those guys are real focused at the task at hand, which was making a great record. And then when they finished it all up, they brought it to Thompson Barbera to mix it. And Axl asked those guys, he goes, hey, man, you think we could sell 100,000 records on this? They're like, hey, maybe. I mean, no one knew. Nobody knew back then.
Like, wasn't the whole infamous story was like that Motley Crue had brought them out on tour, and they were almost at that point of like, get the fuck off this tour. You're done. We're not even going to continue with this band. And then suddenly, boom, it blew up with was it Welcome to the Jungle or something that made it to the MTV airwaves and whatever. And then suddenly, they were like the biggest thing, but they were almost off of that Motley Crue tour. I think that's what the story
was.
The
real story, and that's part of the story, but the real story was they finally got the single out there, and it stalled at about 150,000 units. Okay. People weren't, they were grabbing on those. MTV was only playing so many bands a day.
Yeah.
And Rick Krim, who was running MTV back in those days with Abby Conowitz and Les Garland, all those great guys who were all taking chances on different bands, trying to find something that would make the network still move forward, because they were mixing it up. They were putting pop bands in there and rock and alternative and heavy metal. It was a real potpourri of stuff. And it was a telephone call at 2:00 in the morning from David Geffen to Rick Krim. And David says, hey, I need a favor. Can you play this Guns N' Roses record? And Rick says, if David Geffen calls, he's like E.F. Hunt, you listen.
Yeah, no doubt.
And he provided him with that favor. He played the Guns N' Roses track at nighttime.
But it was like at fucking
all the phone lines shut down. Everything
right?
shut down. Yeah, people were freaked out.
Yeah.
All the phone lines is closed up, and they said, "Oh, you know what? There's reaction here. People like this track," and then they started adding it in the day parts, and it just blew up beyond belief. And that really helped. That favor.
Yeah.
That Rick Krim provided David Geffen was the secret right there. Trust me. Otherwise, that record could have been like anybody else out there, any of those other bands, and it would have just stalled. And you wouldn't have seen those sales. And then, of course, Rick and the influence over at MTV not only played the track, but provided sales to, and Geffen seen that, and Geffen got him on the tour with the Rolling Stones and with Aerosmith. And then when you play in front of audiences like that all the time, it's going to elevate your perception.
Oh, 100%, especially when you're like blowing people away with these songs that are like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, where are these guys from? Why do I not know them? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I remember seeing them in LA. They were playing with, It was the Stones and Living Color with Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses was opening the shows.
Wow.
And people were just blown away. And then they were smart. The record company was smart. They recorded those, made videos for those songs at those concerts. And it appeared that Guns N' Roses was already huge. But
Right.
those were basically Rolling Stones audiences that were watching the shows. And then they played those videos and everybody seen them goes, hey, these guys must be big. It was the marketing in that band was the genius way to go about it. But let's not forget, those songs were iconic. They still are to this day. They still hold up. Go see Guns N' Roses nowadays. It's a little bit different. There's 3 of them, 5 guys out there, but the band is as strong as they've ever been live. I mean, just powerful. And it's all live. They're really a terrific band to this day. And I can't say one bad thing about Slash and Axl, those 2 cats. That's our Plan Page.
100%.
Slash, wonderful guitar player and a charming individual as well. And Axl, anybody that can sing a Guns N' Roses tour, get off the tour and then jump on with AC/DC.
AC/DC, like what?
That shows you that guy's, he's got some superstar talent right there. So, hey, it's nice to be involved and working with cats that worked with that band and done some great things. And I have nothing but respect for those artists.
Yeah, 100%. Switch to sports real quick. What are the sports you like to watch? What are the sports you like to play?
I'm not playing anymore. I'm older than moose pussy. If I go out there and play baseball or football or basketball, I could get hurt. It's like riding a motorcycle. You can't do that as well, too. You got to be real careful out there.
Right.
But obviously, I'm a White Sox fan. I tried out for the Sox when I was a kid. Tried out for a bunch of baseball teams when I was a young kid.
Wow. And so how did that go? How the tryouts go?
It went good. I did good. I was under the tutelage of this guy named Benny Centura. He got me in tryouts for Cincinnati Reds, Milwaukee Brewers, Kansas City Royals. I was a kid, 17 years old, throwing a curveball and a slider. And I didn't have a fast enough pitch. And I just didn't make the 4th quarter, so for lack of a better term. But I had more to say writing songs than throwing a curveball or a slider. So it was a good little thing for me to go out there and play sports. I think I took some of those elements of being on a team and brought it to the band, which is a little discipline and working together as a team, not just as individuals. And I think that helped a lot in the beginning, putting together Enuff Z'nuff. And working with Steven from Guns N' Roses, I tried to bring that to him too, because that was a 5-ring circus back in those old days. So
I bet.
I was able to play with him. I was able to show different ways that you can make this work without, there's no I in team, but there's a me in team ME. So there you go.
Nice.
But other sports, I love football. I love the Bears. I don't really watch the NBA as much anymore because they lean a little bit toward a side I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
But I love sports, period. And I want to see, all the teams do good. But I root for my teams here in Chicago, the Blackhawks, the Bears, and the White Sox. And I like to see the Cubs do well. I think that we had a good team for a long time. Once a team wins it, then they trade everybody and it goes in a different direction. But right. I think in the next couple of years, you'll start seeing the Cubs. There'll be a resurgence and they'll get back and do it again. But right now, Sox had a great year this year. They went all the way to the playoffs and they lost to Houston, who's a fantastic team. Houston's playing Atlanta right now. But have nothing but good things to say about the Sox. And they're going to be great in the future. Wonderful pitching and wonderful young talent, too, that's going to surround their team. If they're smart to keep that nucleus together for the next 5 years, you'll see some more playoff action for us for sure.
Yeah. And how about like MMA? You get into UFC and Bellator and Strikeforce and all that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been watching a lot of the boxing too lately, to be honest.
Yeah, same.
Which is something that's always tripped my trigger. And I just seen that somebody told me the other day that Tyson's going to be fighting again at 55 years old. And I thought that's kind of interesting to get in the ring at that age. It's got to be tough.
Well, who's he fighting though?
He's fighting that YouTube star.
Fucking Jake Paul. Like he's going to destroy that guy.
Well, Jake Paul, 29-year-old guy, he's full of piss and vinegar. He's in pretty good shape.
Dude, have you seen some of the shit that Mike Tyson has been posting on social media? I don't give a fuck how tough you are. It's Mike Tyson. Give me a break. He's one of the toughest guys of all time, period.
Yeah, I'm not going to get in the ring with Tyson, that's for sure. And I have nothing but respect for him. I'm a big fan of his, as a matter of fact. But it's a tough gig, I don't care what age you are, to get in the ring with Mike Tyson is going to be tough. It's going to be a challenge for him too, no matter what. But that could that fight depends if they're gonna have rules and regulations and handcuffs on those guys. If they just let them go out and fight and there's no mandates or restrictions, that could be a short run.
Oh, yeah.
A
It could
lot
be
of
pretty
gamblers
fast.
out there betting on that fight, that's for sure.
Oh, big time.
That might be easier money than Bitcoin.
It very well could be, yes. All right, Chip, I'll respect your time here. I'm gonna wrap it up with a couple more questions.
Okay.
I want to know who's the most famous person that you've met?
Keith Richards,
Nice.
maybe. I went to go see McCartney one time, but he got too tired at the end of the show. I was hanging backstage with there's a couple of musicians, and I can't think of the name of the bands right now. I got a brain cramp, but Chevy Chase was there for sure.
Oh,
And
cool.
the guys in Stray Cats were there along with a couple other most notable people. And Paul's road manager came out and he says, "Hey, Paul's real tired, but he says, thanks for coming out. I'll see you guys next time." But I just happened to meet Keith at Soldier Field. I think it was 2006, 2007.
Okay.
And he came, I was backstage. A friend of mine got me into the show. He used to work with the band. He was actually not a sound buyer, but a monitor guy. He worked for the band, but he was doing sound. And he snuck me in there. I thought it was really nice. And then we were going to go right through the backstage area, right out to the venue in front of the house and watch the show. Big Stones fan, have been for years. My dad turned me on when I was a little kid. And Keith happened to come walking up, and somebody introduced us to each other. And I thought it was nice because it was a girl who does all their makeup and hair and stuff. And she said, "Oh, this is Chip from Enuff Z'nuff." I said, "Keith, big fan." I go, I owe you a lot. Where our bands, we have the character and the style and the disposition of Rolling Stones, but we have the sound of Cheap Trick." And he looked at me and he goes, "Don't blame me." So I thought maybe that was the wrong thing to say right there. Who knows? But I love his playing, and I love the way he writes songs. And I just thought he was a real charming cat. You know, when he doesn't have time to talk to anybody, you would think, but those guys are just like everyday cats. They meet other musicians, and they're very inspiring. So there's other artists too that I've gotten a chance to hang out with, but those are the two biggest ones that I've been around. And one I got a chance to meet, and the other one he eluded me, but it's not over yet.
It's not done yet, man. Yeah.
One day we might cross paths, and I would like that, because if it wasn't McCartney, I probably wouldn't have a job right now, because he invented the singer bass guitar, I think.
Yeah, totally. And back to Keith Richards for a sec. Have you read his autobiography?
Yeah, it's fantastic. And that's not
a
guy telling the truth. You got to say, you can't say one bad word about it. If you're going to put together an autobiography, people want to hear about truth. They don't want to hear milk and cookies. They don't want things that are going to be watered down. They want to expose all those scars and tattoos. And I think Keith did that very eloquently.
Yeah, one of my favorite, rock autobiographies. I love Sammy Hagar's Red. If you haven't read that one, fuck, man, that guy.
I haven't read that yet, but I've been hearing about that. But hey, listen, I love Slash's book with
yes,
Anthony Boza. I think that's a great one.
Another great read.
And you got to love "Is That Noise in My Head Bothering You" by Steven Tyler. That's a fantastic book. Adler's book is really good too.
Haven't read that one. No, I haven't.
Yeah, really, Adler's book is great. And there's a new book that's coming out. It'll be out next year. The author's Kate Catalina, and the book is on Jack Russell. It's the story of Jack Russell and Great White. That book's going to be incredible. There's so many heavyweights that are in that, and really exposing all the stuff that happened in those early days, and even the people that were maybe a little bit looking the other side and a little negative toward Jack because of what happened. They're going to be pleasantly surprised, because it's a chance for him to really apologize and show some empathy and respect to the families that were fans of the band in the old days that he lost. And he's going to tell the truth about everything that happened in those early days of Great White. Those guys are a formidable band. They toured with Guns N' Roses. They had the same management company. Alan Nevin, fabulous manager, managed Great White as well. I think that's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to that book. And then perhaps in the next year or so, we'll get my book as well on Enuff Z'nuff.
Nice. Are you currently working on that book then?
I've been working on it for 5 years. Okay. And you take time off. It's not easy. You really got to devote a lot of time. And I wanted to get a ghostwriter, somebody to come in and help me put it. What I did was I did the book on a CD, it's like 5 CDs of material,
Yeah.
and it's me just talking, telling stories, going through the whole chronological order of how the band started off and where we are today. But I think if I find someone that can help me, massage that and put it all together, that'll help me to be able to put the story and get it out there to all the people, because I want my book to be a movie. Who doesn't?
I want your book to be a movie too.
Yeah, because listen, my book is not it's not homogenized. My book does. It'll expose everything that went on with Enuff Z'nuff, and some of this stuff hurts to talk about, but I'm willing to let it out there because I want to cleanse my soul.
It's part of the history, man. We all want to hear it as fans as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Todd.
Yeah.
And people want to hear it. People want to read books. And the Kiss books that are out there, all the audio stuff that comes out, Nikki Sixx's new book. There's some good stuff that's happening right now around the world. And if you can't get it and see those bands all the time or talk to those artists, man, nothing like having that story right in front of you. And it's a tough sell to get out there and to put a book together and try to get people to get interested in it. But if you got a good story, you got a movie. There's no stopping at what that choo-choo train can take you.
Agreed. Yeah. Well, looking forward to that. All right, wrap it up with this one. Share, because I don't take this the wrong way, Chip, but I feel like that you have a near-death story that you can share with us, like where you're like, holy fuck, I should have died there.
Yeah, during the recording of my record, there's been a few of them, okay? But just recently, about 5 months ago, I was down in Chicago, on the north side of Chicago, and I was stopping over this place called Bodai, right across the street from where I recorded over at Stonecutter Studio, which is on 1829 Clinton, 1827 Clinton in Chicago on the north side. And I made a U-turn and pulled over in front of the place. I was going to order some Thai food and bring it back and surprise my wife. And as I got out of the car, I heard a loud noise. I looked in front of me and there was a car flying at me at 100 miles an hour, right at me. So I jump up on top of I have a Mercedes-Benz. I jumped up on top of the Mercedes-Benz, pull myself up in the car. I could feel the wind as it goes right by me, inches away from my legs and my body, and we're away from the car. And then behind it was 2 unmarked squad cars chasing this Jag off, flying down the street, on a side street, by the way, okay?
Yeah.
And that one shook me up, and that was divine intervention. That's all I can tell you. Divine intervention right there. Real lucky, because that could have been the last days right there, and I wouldn't be able to talk to you today. So happy that there's still some gas in my tank. And I'm looking forward to going out on tour and finishing up this year with a bunch of shows. And then next year, that big tour with Bow Wow Wow, One in Rome, Enuff Z'nuff, Missing Persons.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then, of course, Take It Around. And the new record comes out next week. Very grateful for that. Hard Rock Night, which comes out on Frontiers Records. First single is called Jet, the old Paul McCartney and Wings track.
Yeah.
And, we'll see what happens next year when I embark on this new tour and having my solo record out with Joe Hoekstra and Dax Nielsen from Cheap Trick. And a lot of good stuff that's happening right there. And a lot of records I've produced and play with. I'm trying to help out as many artists as I can right there. So, wish me well as I navigate these waters that are unprecedented.
Dude, that's amazing, right? Like, think about, you got the album coming out with the band. Yeah. You got the solo album coming out. Yeah. You're writing a fucking autobiography. Like, most people would just be crumbling under that amount of pressure to like finish shit up, man.
No, and there's enough awesome household here. It's all work and no play. We just constantly are doing stuff. We try to leave the nights to ourselves to try to hang out together and do some good stuff as a family. But for the most part, it's a house full of artists right here that are constantly writing books and making records. And that's what's at the end of the day. That'll be our legacy.
Not a bad legacy, my friend. Chip, thank you, man, for taking. I took the hat off just for a quick sec here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Todd. I'm glad you had a good Halloween.
Oh, it was awesome. My boys were dressed up as both dinosaurs. One was like fucking 9 feet tall. It was crazy. The other was a velociraptor.
I played a Halloween party last night. We played at the Dannenberg Winery out in New Berlin, Illinois, where Moses left his sandals. It's got to be about 3-4 hours here from Chicago, and had a great show, and everybody was dressed up, and celebrating life. It was really a lot of fun. And I love playing Halloween parties. Last year's Halloween get together wasn't happening because everything was shut down. So
Right.
it's nice to be able to go out there and play shows. I'm glad that everybody's excited about what the future holds. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And I'll see you next year on tour, my friend.
It's all coming around. Yeah. So where's the best place? Where are you most active online? Is it Instagram? Is it
Oh, yeah, you
Twitter?
can check me out on Instagram, Chip Snuff Instagram, or I have a Facebook fan page, and I also am on Twitter. So, and then you can check me out also. I'm on the Monsters of Rock 6 days a week, monstersofrock.com. You can check me out on there. I'm on Dash Radio, which is the new Sirius, okay, because it's satellite radio.
Yeah. Yeah.
30 million subscribers, got about 900,000 people a day listening to us.
Wow.
And that whole show is nothing but A through Z, the whole alphabet of hard rock and heavy metal. I'm on 6 days a week. Rudy Sarzo's got his own show on there. Carrie Stevens, the old Playboy Playmate, Carrie, she's wonderful. Harlan Hendricks, who's Hendrickson, he's the guy who runs the whole thing. He's got his own program as well. I think the Dead Daisies were on there for a while. They had their own channel.
Oh, cool.
And it's a great show. Claudia, she's on there, ClaudiaComedy.com. Check her out. monstersofrock.com -radio. Just get down all you got to do is download the app, -radio.com. And then you download the app and go right to Monsters of Rock channel 502, and you can get me every single day. And if you want to talk to me too, I'm giving shout outs every single day over at Cameo as well. Chip Z'nuff at Cameo. I'm on all the time. So there you go. Got a lot of stuff going on.
You're a busy boy. Chip, thanks again, man, for joining us.
Thanks, Todd.
And we'll see you online, man.
God bless you and your family, buddy.